Hello and welcome back to Talking Europe. The President of France has kicked off the new year with a new push to reform the pension system. Social tensions are rising as Emmanuel Macron's government aims to raise the retirement age from 62 to 64. But France isn't the only country where this issue is a political hot potato. The European Commission says that pension reform is needed across the EU given the rapidly rising costs of ageing. In December, the EU executive singled out 9 countries that particularly need reform, according to it. But pensions aren't an EU competence, and it's up to member states to set the retirement age they choose. I'm joined by 2 MEPs who are both members of the European Parliament's Employment and Social Affairs Committee. Dragoș Pislaru is a former Minister of Labour in the Romanian government. Welcome to you.
Thank you very much.
He's a member of the centrist Renew Europe bloc at the European Parliament. I'm also joined by Nikolai Villumsen, who's from Denmark, and he's a vice chair of the left group in the European Parliament. Welcome to you too.
Thank you so much.
So Nikolai Villumsen, just give us an idea of the situation in Denmark. I was very struck by some figures from the OECD, which forecasts that by 2060, Danes will be retiring at the age of 74, which is way ahead, actually, of other EU countries. How long are you expecting to be working?
Me, personally, I'm 39, and I'm expected to work until I'm 72. So I think that one thing is, of course, a politician like me going around speaking, but imagine you go in the street and you see on the roof a carpenter at the age of 72. For me, that doesn't make sense.
72, but because you have so many more semesters to complete.
Basically, there is an agreement not supported by the left, but supported by a majority so far that is very controversial, that is to higher the pension age accordingly with the age of average living by every 5th year, so meaning that it becomes higher and higher and higher.
Just give us an idea, Dragoș Pislaru, what is the situation in Romania? What is the age of retirement and how is it evolving?
Yeah, just before, because you quoted the OECD.
Yeah.
The OECD is allowing us to see the variety and the diversity of the system. So you are very well, you pointed out very well the fact that we do have a problem that derives from demography, from the fact that the entire population in the western part of the world, at least, is getting older. But you have also very different assumptions when it comes to the systems themselves and how they are. For instance, in Romania, beyond the fact that we have this, the clear worsening of the situation in terms of the dependency ratio, so the number of retired persons and the number of people that are paying, workers that are paying for that, you also have a migratory effects. So you have a lot of people that went from Romania to work in Western Europe, for instance. So you had both a decrease of natality rate and these migration pressures that explain right now what I wanted to mention, the fact that the Romanian system has a very important deficit going on right now. So it is clear that we need a reform. There is a majority that has agreed that we need this kind of reform. First is that the retirement age would be at 65, and then probably the most controversial aspect is related to the special pensions or to the exemptions that you have of the pension system.
Yeah, and this is where I think you two might disagree, because Nikolai Villumsen, you've warned about how precarious life is going to be for people who will be deprived of various special regimes. Just explain that for us.
But I think we're basically talking about what is actually fair.
Yeah.
And do everyone have the right to enjoy the fruits of their long life at the labor market and have some good years at the end of their life together with the grandchildren or not? Because of course those who have enough money, they will always be able to take retirement whenever they want to. But those ordinary people, working people, they do not have that right. And we risk that a lot of people will basically be working until they drop.
Right. So you would not touch any of the special regimes for early retirement?
First of all, I don't want to higher the pension age. It is a very controversial question. It's very unpopular, this reform that has been agreed upon. But one condition you can say that there were that made it acceptable for a larger part of society and also for the trade unions was the fact that if you had been 40 years at the labor market, or if you were like worn out after working, then you had the right to have an earlier retirement. And the problem is, of course, that then what we see now with the current government is that exactly these programs are being attacked.
Dragos Pislato, what about these special pensions regimes? Because you were quite outspoken about that when you were Labour Minister, weren't you?
Yeah, I mean, just to put things into perspective, we are talking about a very unfair, so fairness is exactly the issue here. The unfair part of the system is that you have ordinary people that are contributing to their pensions and then getting the money based on their contribution, and then you have the special categories where you are not going to contribute the amounts that you are getting after. And but
you're working in more dangerous jobs, for example.
I feel that the way you are portraying things here is not necessarily the correct way in Romania, because you do have. If you are working in difficult conditions, you are getting increases in your wages depending on these kind of working conditions. So you have basically, I think, 4 degrees you can get more to your wage if you have this kind of difficult situation. So if you work on a contributivity-based system, then you are going to have a larger pension. And I would advocate that you need higher wages for the people that are really working in difficult conditions, so that they will have higher pensions. The issue that I'm having is with those categories that do have exemptions. For instance, they are working just 20 years, then because they managed to have to push the right type of legislation to get an exemption, they can actually both retire earlier and then have a pension that would be clearly non-contributive and can be up to 6 and 8 or 8 times more than they have contributed to the system. So I don't think that we have a disagreement in terms of fairness. I think that it's a particularity of each system, and I think that this kind of situation in Denmark would be completely unacceptable if you look at the kind of discrepancies that you have.
Is that right? Would it be unacceptable to have someone after 20 years having a special regime?
But I think that it depends, because I think that if you are working hard in the construction industry, or you are a cleaner and you're doing physical job, you are being worn down, and you risk that you especially with the labor market becoming more and more precarious, end up having pain, being sick, and of course then you should be allowed to exit. But I would also say, as a general fairness approach for everyone, that is do you have the right to have a retirement where you can enjoy family life and be together with friends and grandchildren. And I do not think it should only be for those who are rich. I think it should be a right for everyone. And I would actually say that something that was a huge, historically reform in Denmark was that you introduced what is called the people's pension, so that everyone had the right to have this. And this is the actually age we're talking about. The right of people's pension is being higher, and more people are becoming in risk of actually dying before they get so far.
Is there a right for everybody to have a quality pension?
I think that this can be considered as a social right for spending your time after investing a lot in the society through your work. On the other hand, as being part of a centrist group, I mean, you need to look where the money are coming from.
Yeah.
So if you have a deficit in the system and you have less and less workers that can cover more and more retired person, this is not something that is subjective. This is really something that we need to talk to. So the thing that happened in various member states of the EU or in OECD countries to try to link the life expectancy age with the duration or retirement age, I mean, that is common sense somehow. I mean, I'm not saying that increasing the retirement age is the only measure, but again, Netherlands already has 68. Estonia has just increased it. There are other member states that are working on the benefits. There are, I think, 7 or 8 member states that are actually pushing a lot on the voluntary pension, on the second pillar. We have right now in Europe what is called the pan-European pension product that was supposedly being developed in order to allow for this kind of additional support for the retirement age.
Just because we don't have much time, Nicolai Willumsen, just your thoughts on what your colleague said about raising the retirement age is not the only answer. What other things would you like to see to make up for the deficit?
But I think basically it's like politics in general. This is a question about priority. We are seeing that the rich people are becoming richer. We're seeing that there is a growing inequality, and we're actually seeing that in many countries, including my own, the same government that wants to attack the right of pension are also the government that wants to give tax reductions for those who have the most. So of course, making the rich pay would be allowing for ordinary people to have the pension age they have now instead of attacking that right, and I think that is basically a question about priority, and I think I would just one thing to what my good colleague Dragos said is that I think also if you just look at the average life expectancy, the problem is that a lot of people, cleaners, are not. That's in my country. They are not living that far. So construction workers are not at the same level as the others. So a lot of people will really lose out if we do not secure their right to have a decent end of their living.
There are certainly variations in life expectancy according to career and job. Thank you so much, both of you. Thank you to Nicolai Willumsen and Dragos Pislaru. And that's all for this edition of Talking Europe. Thank you so much for joining us.